Hi, we're the O'Briens. I'm Ed,
And I'm Barbara.
and we're CASA volunteers.
We've been with CASA for about 3.5 years now, and we've so far had 4 different cases involving 11 children, and each one has been so different.
Completely different. The first one we had was the sexual abuse of a young girl, and that one was challenging. And probably one of the biggest challenges we faced initially is that the girl's guardian didn't believe her. And the court thought that they needed an advocate just to speak for her.
In fact, initially the girl's mother didn't believe her either, but fortunately that all changed, and her mother and her parents became advocates for her as well.
The results of that one were good, so that was a win for us and for the CASA program, I believe. And then we had a case that involved 2 children, and it wasn't really the children initially, it was the parents who were in the court system, in the criminal court system, for sexual crimes not involving their children. But the court thought that those children needed someone to look out and make sure that their rights were being looked into and that their needs were being addressed.
One of the things that made that case so challenging is that the children were being cared for by someone who was not in the area. So that entailed some long trips. But eventually, in fact, just last night, we got a telephone call from the girls. They had received our birthday cards. Their birthdays were very close together. And they were calling to thank us and just thank us for paying attention to us for all of that time. So that was one of the real bonuses of being a CASA volunteer.
That was the kind of a bonus where you pick up the phone and 2 little girls sing out, "Hi, Ed and Barbara, we're calling to," and it was just a great feeling, you know. So they're no longer part of the system. They've graduated now, if you will, but we still send them cards, and they still think of us every now and then, and that is a reward in and of itself.
So that was a real success story. But I almost feel like we've gotten the cart before the horse a little bit, because I said we'd been CASA volunteers for about 3.5 years. But how we got to be CASA volunteers, I think is really important, because it was from a volunteer, another CASA volunteer, telling us about CASA and asking us to volunteer. So spreading the word is just so important, because CASA needs to grow. Our judge in Sevier County has told us that he could use 50 more CASA volunteers. So I hope folks listening to this will think about that and look at one of the opportunities to get the training and become a volunteer.
Yeah, when you think about it, there's so many ways that CASA can help. There's so many ways that people can help CASA and can help those of us that are willing to be advocates for these kids. You can become one. It's easy to do. I'm sure that we'd love to have you. The training is comprehensive and will give you a pretty good background in it. And there's always someone you can ask questions when you get confused. Of course, you can spread the word and help others understand what we do and the need for the volunteers. And then finally, you know, we can donate to it. And in this time of COVID and the uncertainty now of all fundraisers, any agency in the community that uses normal fundraising procedures is having to come up with new ways and new methods to do that. So, you know, that would be wonderful for anything that anyone could do to help get the word out about the need for volunteers to protect these children.
Yeah, Ed mentioned the difficulties of COVID, and that has made our job as CASA volunteers more challenging, because one of the things that makes you feel so appreciated and helps you bond with your children is that, you know, the hands-on, the hugs and the touching, and just being close to them. And that's something that we haven't been able to do through COVID. So that's been a challenge.
The big challenge on that for me was it took 6 months to a year before one little girl decided that it was okay to hug me. And I always told her, she said, I don't want to hug you. And I said, no, you don't have to ever hug anybody you don't want to. And finally she said, I want to hug you. So I was real happy about that. And then COVID hit. And now all of a sudden she runs up and can't.
Now we're having to wave at them from the porch, so it makes it a little difficult.
But so that's a little difficult.
But thinking about another child too, that was just, I guess you'd call him one of the hard cases, that so distant and just not very comfortable around other people. And finally he wanted to be picked up and held. So in moments like that's what makes it so rewarding.